Hello, in this video we're going to cover how to connect and configure Drivve Print on a Xerox ConnectKey device. So here in Drivve Print I've got my Xerox device selected here in the printers and MFDs section. This is where you'll go once you've connected the device and configured it in the setup. So in the setup I would have picked my driver, it would have matched the device, and it would have attempted to set up the ConnectKey EIP platform, as well as configured the direct Drivve Print target printer and the converter queue for this device. So the Xerox platform, there's a couple things that you need to do to make sure that it's going to work properly even after the device has been set up. Using the configure platform is always a good way to test it again to see what's actually happening when it configures the application. When you just run it in the setup, you don't get the logs. If something doesn't go right, you can run the configure platform and see exactly what it's done. Here you'll also get the URLs that Drivve is going to register to the device. This one is for the secure access URL for the Xerox, for the login, and this above is for the application for Drivve Print for pull printing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit register, and it's going to walk me through exactly what it's trying to do. So it's going to register the application. It'll clear the application if it's there. It activates network accounting, which is what Drivve uses for the accounting events. We do not use the Xerox standard accounting. We use a network accounting. We're also going to lock the pathways and lock the applications. You can do that manually as well, but what that means is no application can be used until the secure access login has happened through Drivve. It's also going to go ahead and configure the authentication. So here in the Xerox device, I'm going to walk you through a couple of the things that you're going to need to check. You'll see here that this is a ConnectKey device. We will have separate documentation for the older EIP devices, as the settings are a little different. But with the ConnectKey device, normally it comes with a self-signed certificate out of the box. If it doesn't, you're going to want to go down here and actually create a self-signed certificate. You'll also need to enable HTTPS and SSL, which is what the device and also the secure access service uses. HTTPS, SSL have to be enabled on the device in order for Drivve to work. Also here you can create a new certificate if you need to. But like I said, they normally come standard. So the first thing that you're going to want to do here is go up to Extensible Services Setup here in the General Setup. And this is where you're going to make sure that all of the applications that Drivve needs are set up. You're also going to want to make sure that Verify Server Certificates is off, and we do not need to export passwords to Extensible Services. Drivve Print and Drivve Image work together on the Xerox much like they do on other platforms, in that all the password storage and communication is done on the server side, not on the device. So I'm going to hit edit here and go to web services, and really we need everything to be enabled, especially here the let's go down, Xerox Secure Access, which is disabled by default. You're going to definitely need to go in here and enable that. The auto setup doesn't always do that for you. So another thing that's very important with the Xerox is the DNS settings. In the case where the device is on a large network with a set DNS server that you know, it's always good to set that DNS server up here in the Xerox device. So if I go to Connectivity, Setup, TCP/IP, and DNS, this is where you can set that DNS server if it's not already. If there isn't a DNS server here, or if you can't get a hold of one and you don't know what it is, what you can do is copy this requested host name. That's the name that the Xerox uses and the name that it uses when it reaches out to the Drivve server. You're going to want to copy that, and here I'm going to go to the hosts file of the server. The host file is a kind of precursor to a DNS server that Windows can use to default a match for an IP address to a DNS name. So what that means is that here in Windows System 32, let's see, and then drivers, I remember my alphabet here, and etc. I have a host file. And what I'm going to need to do here is open it with Notepad And you see I've already done it, but I've added an entry here with the IP address and that requested name of the device. What that's going to do is when the device reaches out to Drivve print, it'll reach out using this, and if the DNS servers are not set up properly, then this will guarantee that Drivve will recognize the device and also that the login process will happen almost immediately. If it's got to circle through the IP address and the name and the fully qualified name, it can take anywhere up to 8 to 10 seconds for the login to happen. So this is documented in an FAQ on the website, but if you're having login problems or it's not going very fast, always set the host file instead of depending on the DNS. So you see here in Drivve print, I've got the authentication server as the IP address. If I've done that in the host file, I can use the requested name there instead of the IP address. That's going to help with the speed. Obviously, like I said, if the DNS servers are correct and the server and the device are both registered and set to the DNS server, then you can use either the IP address or that name there. But it's always a good idea to, use the name for the IP address field here in Drivve. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the device here, and there's another thing that you're going to need to set up. We've already checked that the services are enabled and that the host name is here and that the certificate and SSL is enabled. If you go here to Login Permissions and Accounting and Login Method, you'll see that it will enable secure access by default. What you're going to need to do here though is go into Edit, and you're going to need to go to Manually Override Settings. And here you can change the text that you'll see as a user when you walk up. So if you are not using that QR code as the image, you can remove that part, or you can give a custom message there. Also, if you want to give them an alternate login method so that they don't have to swipe their card, you're going to want to check this Xerox Secure Access Device plus alternate on-screen authentication method. And that's going to give them a little alternate login button that they can use to log in if they don't have their card. One last thing that we're going to need to do here is enable secure access sometimes. If I go back to login methods and web service enablement, if it's not yet enabled, you're going to need to go to Edit there and go down and enable the Xerox Secure Access function. So here you'll see it down there below. And sometimes that gets enabled if you enable it above, sometimes it doesn't, but you're just going to want to make sure that that's set. Some other options that you have here, like you saw, you can change the customer logo, and that would be the QR code in our case. If you want to set the permissions as well, if you go to User Permissions, you can select what logged in users and non-logged in users have access to. So if I go to User Permission Roles, this was all locked down by default, which you saw. But if I want to make it so that, for instance, a non-logged in user can make a copy, I can come in here and edit those functions here, edit the tools, and allow for some things and not allow for others. But you see that by default we've restricted access to everything. So now that that's done, all the settings are hopefully correct. I'm going to go into the remote control panel here, and I'm going to activate the remote control panel and take a look at what it actually looks like on the device panel. So here we are at the Xerox control panel, and you'll see that we have some basic information here. You should be familiar with this. Drivve, rather than using its own application as a login screen, we use the secure access function here. Makes it a little faster and easier to manage. This right here is a logo that you can change to either the customer's logo or to that QR code if you want to do a cell phone login with one of the Drivve mobile apps. Here I'm going to select the alternate login button. I could also swipe my card and it'll prompt me for my username and password. When I select the alternate login button, it asks me for my ID. Here I'm going to log in as the admin. And this is where the user would log in with their Windows ID as well. If you want this to be a shortcode, simply change the login type in Drivve Print to shortcode, and then you can use, it'll ask for their shortcode rather than the username and password. So here I'm logged in as an admin. Anything that I do will be tracked as that user, any copies, prints, or anything like that. I can also select the Drivve print application for pull printing, and this was set up by default when I ran the configure platform button. Sometimes the first time takes a little while, but after that it's pretty quick. Here's where the users will see their jobs, and they can select the jobs, they can click advanced, and actually let's go ahead and give a job there real quick. So I'm going to go to the upload page of Drivve print, and I'm just going to upload just whatever file here. I've got an invoice, that'll work. And so those jobs will have come from the MyQ printer based off whoever was logged in when they printed to that printer, or they can come from mobile prints, or in this case, like you see, an upload. So if I reload the jobs there, I'll see my job. I can select that job. You'll see that it's in color. If I want, I can set it to be in monochrome. I can make 2 copies of it, and I'll set it to duplex. When I hit print, it's going to leave. It'll print to the device, and everything will be tracked in Drivve print based off how many pages and whether they were color or black and white or whatnot. One thing to remember is that the reporting on the Xerox device is periodic, which means that you're not going to see that event right away in Drivve print. It goes and pulls the devices every couple of minutes and grabs all the user events. So that's how we set up secure access using the configure platform button as well as the Drivve print application. If that fails, there are some FAQs for advanced troubleshooting and how to add it manually, but typically on the Xerox, as long as the firmware is up to date and the services are enabled, then it should work with the auto configure. You just might have to change a couple of the settings once you get in there.